all that you've done for us. We thank you for sending your son Jesus to us, Father, who died on the cross for the love of us, Father. And we know on that third day, Father, he was arose. And he's still very much alive to this day. And we pray, Father, that you'll still work in our lives, Father. Help us to stay focused on you, Father, and stay true to your word. And I pray, Father, for our nation, Father. It needs help. There's so much hatred going on now in our nation, Father. I just pray, Father, that somehow it will come back together. Father, I pray for all our military and our law enforcement officers as well, Father, what they do for us each and every day. There's no one greater than you, Father. You are the Lord of Lords and King of Kings. And Father, I pray that you will watch over us and guide us and protect us, Father. And pray, Father, that you'll forgive us as we fail you each and every day. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Amen. All right, for the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, we have a Boy Scout, Mr. Ty Sholian. We welcome you to come to the podium and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. All right. Roll call.
Mr. Ledwell.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Avery.
Here.
Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. Matt.
Here.
Mr. Watson.
Here.
All right. Public input. If anyone wishing to address or have any comments on any of the agenda items, we want you to come to the podium. We want to hear what you have to say. What we would do is when that agenda item comes up for discussion, you just simply raise your hand like this, and we'll call upon you, and you come up and introduce yourself and tell us your address, and we'll give everybody equal opportunity to talk. 3 minutes will be the limitation tonight. All right, presentations. We have no presentations. That was item number 7. Item number 8, adoption of the minutes from the April 11th, 2019 regular meeting of the council. Do we have a motion to adopt those minutes?
I make a motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Jeff Ard. Do we have a second? We have a second by Mr. Tracy Gerlinghouse. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? All right. Parish President's report. He's not here tonight. He was helping move his daughter, and I wish them well in their movement.
What?
Okay, so item agenda number 10. Okay. We will now be entering a public hearing in adoption of LP ordinance number 19-10 to amend section 11-2 speedboats by reducing idle zone to 300 feet from intersection of the diversion canal to Blind River. Sandy, could you read that for us?
Yes, sir. This is proposed ordinance number 19-10, an ordinance to amend and reenact chapter 11 of the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston, State of Louisiana, section 11-2A, speed of boats, Blind River at the intersection of the diversion canal, as set out more specifically herein.
All right. Is there any discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item? No? All right. Is there any discussion from the council?
Yeah, who requested this?
It was Mr. Tab.
So it's on the diversion canal, they want to do some more no-wake zone?
No, shortening.
Shortly.
To decreasing the no-wake zone
Since Blind River Bar burned down, they want to shrink it.
and make it?
Yeah.
But they don't want to do away with less government, John.
Hallelujah. Can I make that motion?
Yeah. So we need that before next week.
No, you can second it though, I'm gonna make it.
Okay.
All right, do we have a motion? To adopt? Oh, wait, I got to close the public hearing. All right, no more discussion? We'll now close the public hearing. All right, do we have a motion on the floor to adopt LP ordinance number 19-10, section 11-2?
Yes, sir.
We do, by Mr. Tab Lobell from Springfield, Louisiana. We have a second by Mr. John Wascom. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope, great. All right. Agenda item number 11, discuss alcohol permit renewal process fees for AMVETS Post number 68 due to the lapse in annual procurement from 2015 to 2018. This is Mr. Tab Lobel. Do you have a few things to say about this?
Yeah, they never lost their state permit. Their secretary just didn't file the proper paperwork. She was not doing a lot of things apparently. And but they came to the parish and said, hey, look, we realize that this is lapsed. We're sorry, what can we do? And I'd like for us to just let them reinstate, come on back in. They kind of came to us. We didn't track them down, so I'd like to make a motion that we just let them pay their current fees for this year and get back on board.
Waive the 15, 16, 17, 18 fees, pay 19. I mean, it's as much our fault as theirs that we didn't notify. You know, we ought to have some responsibility in that. So we might need to address that in ordinance, how we can, you know, better figure out who's in business and doesn't have a parish permit and try to figure out how to address that in the future. But in this particular situation, I think, you know, just let them pay 19, get back in good graces,
Yeah.
and waive the 15 through 18 when they didn't have a permit.
All right,
And
so.
I'll second that for Tab.
So we have that motion. Sandy, do you have what you need?
Yes, sir.
You've got that? Mr. Tab Lobel made that motion. Mr. Gary Talbert seconded that motion. Before we vote on that, I just want to ask, is there any discussion from the audience? No? All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? All right. All right. Agenda item number 12, adopt a resolution to name an unnamed road off of Woodside Drive, Training Center Boulevard, located in Council District Number 7. Mr. Tracy Gerlinghouse.
Well, if you've ever been to the training center, it's basically a road that cuts off the Woodside before you go into the landfill, and it leads back to where the training center, where they do in the range. Recently, I think Woodside wanted to move their facility a little closer, so they actually built a road in there just for the training center where it comes out on Woodside Drive. So I was asked to name the road, and so we come up with Training Center Boulevard. So I would like to offer a motion to name the unnamed road Training Center Boulevard.
Okay, we have a motion by Tracy Gerlinghouse to name that unnamed road. We have a second by Mr. Bubba Harris. Is there any discussion from the audience? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Wonderful. Okay, item agenda number 13, a resolution authorizing the Department of Public Works to install no outlet road signs on Jennifer Street and Leighton Lane. Say that again? Leighton Lane.
Leighton?
Off of Buddy Ellis Road. That's also in Mr. Tracy Gerlinghouse's district?
Yes, I had one of the residents called me and said that apparently the road kind of dead ends at their driveway, and people think you can cut through there, like you can, if you go down Buddy Ellis coming from Walker North headed toward Jubin. It's kind of confusing. You think you can cut through, but once these big trucks get back there, there's nowhere to turn around. So they're basically getting stuck and tore up. So they just wanted to put a no outlet sign right there so they'll know that they can't cut through. And as I was going over there, there was no sign on the street before that. So I went down there, and they're in the same situation. So I found out the name of that street, and I'm going to put a no outlet for both of those because they both basically dead end at someone's property, and these are little roads. I mean, clearly if a big truck comes in there to deliver furniture or something, they can do it, but they're going to know that they're going to have to maneuver a way to get in and out. But so they just asked for a no outlet sign. I think it's a small thing, so I'll make that motion. Go ahead.
We have a,
You want to add the other street to it?
It says both.
Both are on the thing.
Okay.
okay, so we have a hand up right here by Miss Sandy
Yes,
Teal.
The Department of Public Works is under the direction of our parish president. Can we change that word from authorizing to requesting the Department of Public Works.
Certainly.
Sure.
Yeah, all we gotta do is put in a
Yeah, I think-
request, and they always do it.
I think we can
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
good.
Can't we,
Sure.
Yeah,
all right, yeah, request.
good catch. That way-
So we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Tracy Gergenhouse to pass a resolution to request the Department of Public Works to install no outlet road signs on Jennifer Street and Layton Lane off of Buddy Ellis Road.
I'll second
Do we have a
that.
second? We have a second by Mr. Jeff Ard. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Certainly not. All right. Item agenda number 14. Consider a resolution to request the governor's office to appoint Leisha Robert as interim constable, Ward number 8, until an election is held to fill the position through December the 31st, 2020, the remaining term of office. Excuse
Let
me.
me take that for you, buddy.
Okay, so now I got this. Okay, Mr. Jimmy Alford was a longtime resident of Holden, Louisiana. My hometown. Try to make this short and sweet, but he was a fine, outstanding citizen who will be greatly missed by the people of Livingston Parish and certainly by all the people in Holden, Louisiana. He was a constable of Ward 8. He also volunteered, well, he was also a board member from Fire District Number 10 in Holden, Louisiana, the volunteer fire department for many, many years. Once again, he'll be severely missed and did a lot of great things. All right, so this here resolution, we went over, you have 20 days for the council to appoint somebody. And so we went over that 20-day mark. So this resolution would be to request the governor's office to appoint Leisha Robert as interim constable. So I'd like to make that motion. Does anybody have anything?
I'll move that motion for you.
Huh?
You can't make
Okay,
that.
there's nine motions. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
In 9 seconds.
There's 9 motions. No, I'm just kidding.
Since you and I both work.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bubba Harris. To appoint Leisha Robert as interim constable of Ward 8, replacing Mr. Jimmy Alford. We have a second by
Everybody.
Pick anybody.
everybody.
Whoever you want.
Tableau Bell.
There you go.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the audience? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Certainly not.
Congratulations, Lucia.
Thank you.
Now the governor's office sign it, we'll get that done.
Okay.
Anybody that didn't know.
Yeah.
We knew.
Okay. So, number 15, board appointments. We have Recreation District Number 5, South, Tableau Bell.
Yeah, Ronnie Lambert needs to be reappointed. He does a lot, good guy, so, I'd like to reappoint him.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Tableau Bell to reappoint Ronnie Lambert to Recreation District Number 5 South. We have a second by Mr. Jeff Averitt. Is there any discussion from the audience? Any discussion from the council? No. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope. All right. Agenda item 15B, Fire Protection District Number 7. Mr. Jeff Averitt.
Recreation.
Yes, Mr. Jerry Parker, been a longtime board member,
Yeah.
and he passed away here a month or so ago. Great member, great guy. And, go ahead.
That is a typo, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It's not Recreation District
No, it's
number
fire.
7, it's like Mr. Max said,
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah, it's fire, I should have said that too.
Protection
It's,
District
on the agenda, it's a typo. It's Fire Protection District Number 7.
And, we want to appoint Mr. Gerald Crochet to that position.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Jeff Averitt to appoint, say that again?
Gerald
Gerald
Crochet.
Crochet.
Gerald Crochet to Fire Protection District Number 7. There's a second by Bubba Harris. Is there any discussion from the audience? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Wonderful. Okay. Agenda item number 16. Addition of Sherrill Drive between Arlene Drive and Sherray Drive for consideration to the capital outlay priority road list. This happens to be in Mr. Gary Talbert's district.
Yeah, I just got a request to put Cheryl on the deal, and then after I had sent the thing to Miss Angie to be put on the list, I got a request from the Homeowner Association of Richmond Place to add Melrose also, and Chris, I think since the item is to add, we can, whoever wants to put a road can do it, so I would like to have it, add Cheryl Drive and Melrose Avenue to the priority road list.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor to add Sherrill Drive to the priority road list. Is there a
Melrose Avenue.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
And Melrose Avenue, it's not on there, I'm just adding it. And-
Oh.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
You got that?
For consideration.
For consideration to be added.
To the capital outlay.
Capital
priority
outlay.
road list.
That's right. So, do you have the road name, Sandy, written down? All right. So is there any discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item? Super. So we have a second by Scooter King. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. All right. District Attorney report.
No report.
Wonderful.
That was quick.
All right. Ordinance Committee meeting. Well, actually, Ordinance Committee report by the chair, Mr. Gary Talbot.
Ordinance Committee met today. We discussed the fill ordinance for 55 minutes, and we came up with kicking a can down the road to recommend it to the
Master plan.
Master Plan Committee for review, and I would still like to move forward with the introduction tonight because I believe that it's something we need to move forward with, so I would like to move forward with the introduction of the ordinance.
All right. So is that a motion?
Yes, motion to introduce the ordinance.
A motion to introduce, my bad. So we have a second by Mr. Jeff Ard, and so I'd like to know if there's any discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item.
It's gonna be May the what, it's not listed on here.
So,
Yep, we got somebody.
so we do have somebody.
Yeah.
And it's
So,
just-
Mr.,
it's just an introduction.
Can you come on up and raise your hand, please?
Name's Tim Kinchin, live at 12990 Sutcliffe Drive, Walker, Louisiana. And I'm just going to briefly paraphrase what I said during the ordinance committee meeting. That I am not in favor of my elected officials, as one of them stated, taking away any of my rights. I would prefer that y'all protect my rights. And this ordinance takes away my right, one of my rights to lumber my property out if it's in a flood zone. And there's several items in the ordinance, the stipulation of the flood elevation certificate, which is duplication of what already takes place in the permitting process, that requiring a certificate of elevation has nothing to do with eliminating any flooding. The stipulations of the compaction test to be run has nothing to do with eliminating the flooding. Some of the wording is the 24-inch and the 26-inch restrictions. Terms are considered arbitrary terms if you were in a legal court of law, and it could block this government action in the court of law if this passed with this wording in it.
Did you say that was said in Ascension Parish also? Did you?
I'm quoting basically Ascension Parish Legal, what they said a month ago to their committee when they were discussing a 36-inch limit.
Didn't this ordinance originally draft from Ascension?
The Ascension's got a 36-inch and
Okay.
24-inch fill in place now.
Okay, go ahead.
They have a 36-inch limit in some smaller subdivisions. It is not a parish-wide ordinance, and they are questioning why it has not been brought to court yet in these smaller subdivisions. And in speaking with some geotechnical people that do the foundation work, they had, and also in talking with a engineering firm, they had serious concerns about the 24-inch limit, that it could go out from the pad. It was gonna cause erosion from the rainwater running off the roof, and the drip edge is gonna causes erosion issues back under the slab. It's just a lot of things about the way this ordinance is written, got issues about it that I just don't agree with, and some professional people in the engineering field and the geotechnical field that deal with this on a daily basis, they have issues with some of it. And again, by limiting me or anyone to 24 inches on a half acre or less, or 36 inches, and not allowing me to be able to loam my property out and not have to pay flood insurance, you're taking my rights away. And so, as the majority of the way this ordinance is written, I stand against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kinsley. Is there any more discussion from the audience? All right, come on up.
My name's Vanessa Thompson. I'm on North Dole Road. I don't understand a whole lot about this, but I think just common sense, we're gonna have to use some common sense here and know that in these low-lying areas, which there are a lot of them in Livingston Parish, just about all of it, we are gonna have to have some kind of stipulations on dirt fill coming in, people bringing in dirt, because it is affecting everybody around you. I don't understand completely all of the extra costs that it's going to cause people and things like that. I think that's something I need to learn a little more about maybe, and y'all need to maybe discuss it, how that you could keep the costs down on individuals that maybe cannot afford all these tests and things like that. But we're going to have to use some common sense here and be able to not have people mounding up dirt all around us. Just on my road, on North Dole Road, since the flood, there's half a dozen people that have built or either put in a trailer or something like that and built up all these little mounds. And that is just furthermore going to affect, now, not me so much, because when I had to build high on piers. But my dad, being there 50 years, it's going to affect him. He got 18 inches this time. Who's to say he won't get way double that next time if all these people keep mounding up dirt, you know? So I think piers, we got to look at people building on piers and stuff, and we got to get some of this. They filling in natural gullies and holes and drainage and stuff that don't need to be filled in. And I just want y'all to really look at that close. We've got to do something. We've got to use some kind of common sense. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Is there any more discussion from the audience? All right.
John Williams, 9421 North Street. And I just want to commend, the two people that spoke. They both had good ideas. But I just want to say, she used one real good word: common sense. I wish all y'all would use, and us too, start thinking about things. Use a little bit of common sense.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, is there any more discussion from the audience? All right, I got something to say, but I'd like to go last, believe it or not. So does anybody else have anything to say?
I would like to say I'm of the belief that we need to do something when it comes to this regard, this fill limit. But I'm also reminding everyone, this is a preliminary, this is just a preliminary vote. So I'm certainly open, it's an introduction, yeah, thank you. I'm open to discussion between now and 2 weeks from now, you know, how we can tweak it to where it will maybe satisfy, we're not gonna satisfy everybody.
No.
But I don't want to do anything that's unnecessary, you know, but I do believe that we do need to put something in place, as I know you do not, so I'm open to, you know, we can come to a compromise or something that will make more sense, or, you know, it's explained in that direction, so, that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Tracy.
All right.
Does anybody else have anything to say?
I do.
Oh, cool, Mr.
You know,
Jeff.
I just feel like we have to do something. You know, we can't just leave it the way it is. I had people live on Vornado Road 2 days ago that I went and rode down, that they're flooded because one side of the road was built up all the way down for 5 houses. All the water's being forced around them houses. It's flooding all these people that's been there for 30 and 40 years. We have to do something. You know, we might have to put this in place, and as we run into situations, we tweak it, we fix it until we get it right. But we can't just keep allowing people to build mounds of dirt beside people that's been there forever and causing them problems. I mean, we got a place of business on Walker North by Arnold Road that I bet you he's got 6 to 7 foot of dirt he just brought in to put his building on. You know, I mean, that's gonna affect something somehow. I mean, it's a big old pile of dirt that wasn't there before. I mean, it has to affect it somehow.
It didn't come from that site.
Yeah, it wasn't from that site. So, I mean, there's one on River Road in Denham. I mean,
It's at least that.
yeah, I mean, he's just built up in the middle of houses that are basically on the ground, and his bottom of his slabs at their rooftop.
Of course, FEMA required that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we had no requirement
No,
to
they
stop
didn't
him from
require
bringing the
dirt.
dirt in.
What's that?
They didn't require that dirt mound. They
They
required
required
the
the
building
elevation.
above a certain level.
So I feel we have to do something to protect our people that are living here right now.
I agree 100%. I got something.
Oh,
We're
school
gonna
too.
work down the,
It's a very serious topic, so it's
Yes,
good that
it's
we get it
serious.
out. And
I've been
discuss
talking to Gary about this for 3 years. Let's say 2.5 years since the flood. We talked about it before my wife even said in a floodplain, never let them put those dirt mounds, never let them build on the ground again. They're gonna build in the air or you don't build. I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but we have to do for the people that are here now. I see it in my district. We all see it in our districts. This side over here where we at, it's getting really tight. So the more of this that goes on, you may not think that 1 or 2 makes a difference, but when you go down a road and the entire road is built up 6 feet higher than the road, and the people that were on the other side have been there 30 years, it's putting water in their house. It's gotta stop. Now, we can either work on it slowly by doing this and then build on it, or we can just go with the whole thing and say, you're not gonna build anymore like that. But it's gotta stop now. We can't wait 15 years. Okay? I heard somebody during the ordinance meeting say, well, this is too tough on the poor people, this people, to that people. Maybe we ought to pay for all their drainage impact studies with taxpayer money. That's ridiculous. I'm getting beat to death over a $3 mosquito feed. And we talking about a $3,000 or $4,000 per place with taxpayer money? Not acceptable. If you're gonna build, it's on you. I understand that some people don't have the means. They bought a piece of land, they thought they could just build a little dirt pile. I get it. I grew up where you grew up, you know, and it's tough. And it's gonna be hard on all of us to make this happen. But we have to do it now.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. All right. Does anybody else have anything to say?
My only deal is, and I'm going back to my little 1 foot deal, is if we want to do it to help the people, let's go like 1 foot. All that is, you know, just the base. All right, then get your elevations, And if you have to build on piers, you're gonna be building on piers, there's nothing you can do about it. But, I would like that a lot better than I would piling up dirt 3 and 4 foot high.
Yeah.
And that way you hurting people on downstream from it. I had 5.5 inches of water. When they go to piling up dirt everywhere, how much am I gonna have next time?
We just don't know, that's the
That's
problem.
right, don't know.
John? Anybody else? Come on, Gary.
I'm talked out on it. I've said all I got to say.
For real?
Really.
Okay.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Go ahead, Tracy.
I'm sorry, ma'am, go ahead.
No, you come on.
Double time?
No, we'll let her talk.
I just wanted to say, the impact studies and all that, like I say, I don't understand about a lot of that stuff. But I think some of that stuff might be unnecessary you're putting on people when you can go and look at a piece of property and say, hey, water comes up here, you know, and you gotta do this and you gotta build it this high, you know. What is an impact study? Maybe that's what I need to know.
Ms. Morgan?
Drainage impact study is whenever you look at what you originally had, so what the property is right now, where all the drainage is going, and then you look at what you're planning on doing, how it's gonna affect the drainage. So the drainage impact study comes into play when you wanna change what's out there. If you're building a house on piers, a drainage impact study wouldn't be something you needed.
Right,
They're
so
trying to
there
say-
we go with common sense again. We need to be, a lot of these places, we can look at it in common sense and say, if I build a hill this high, that's gonna displace water, and it's gonna move it on my neighbor. You know, so I mean, we need to get some common sense here.
Well, and that's
I mean,
what
but
we
some-
starting to look at,
but
that's
some-
exactly what you're saying.
Some
And-
people here don't believe that's the case, though. Some
Uh,
people here think that you can pile up all the dirt you want and it's not gonna affect.
And it's not gonna go-
That's what, I mean,
You're right.
I
You're
mean,
absolutely right.
that's what some believe. And I don't mean to interrupt you, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, that's, you would save on an impact study if you just used a little common sense. But I know that there are people out there that don't care, you know, if what they do to their property affects anybody else or not. So, I mean, you may have to have things like that, but maybe there's some kind of way to lower that cost or do something, you know, I don't know.
We can look at that and work
Maybe
on
we
that
need-
kind of thing.
I think the way this ordinance is written is that if you just want to limit your fill to 2 or 3 feet, you don't have to have any additional cost of drainage impact studies or engineering. It's that if you want to go above that 2 or 3 feet number, then you've got to prove that you're not negatively impacting your
Impacting
neighbor.
others around.
And so that really would only apply on significantly larger tracts of land, you know, that you're building one house on. And, but I just felt that given some of the rural areas of the parish and the fact that there were larger tracts of land, to restrict everybody to a 3-foot number or a 2-foot number wouldn't be fair if those people could actually show justification, given their situation, that they wouldn't negatively impact their neighbor or the surrounding area. So that was the reason for the exception, was it's kind of like this is a step towards solving a bigger problem.
And I
It's kind of
do
like
think
the
we
heroin
need-
addict that went to the methadone clinic instead of going cold turkey. We're kind of moving in the right direction.
Well, and like I said at the ordinance meeting, I do believe this is a baby step. I do believe this is something that needs to be put in place, possibly, and maybe look at the impact of cost on the individual, you know, and work on that in some way.
Before or after we put this in place?
How can it be done? I mean, can it be done after it's put in place and be changed?
Certainly.
You know?
You can always amend any order.
Okay. So, yeah,
This
but
doesn't even
definitely
distinguish or even state how much the cost is gonna be.
Because we ain't in that business.
I believe this. It boils down to, do you want to protect the people who live here or protect the people at the cost of the people who live here or the people who might live here? And that's really what it is.
My answer would be to protect both.
My answer would be the people who live here, number one with a bullet. The people who want to move here come in second.
Yeah, I mean, in order to do that, in order to protect both, I think that you're gonna have to put some type of restriction on all this landfill coming in because it is impacting the neighbors that have been there for so long. And it's just dumping more water on them. And then as you go, maybe work out all this other stuff.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Okay, I got a couple of things to say.
Wait, you didn't let John go.
Well, I apologize.
No.
Let's let
I-
Mr. Bubba go, and then let's
I
let
thought
John
you-
go.
Well, the only thing I have to say is nothing to do with my 1 foot, but if I have a piece of property and I go out and I say, well, I'm gonna have to get an elevation on it. And I'm planning on building up 3 feet, if that's what I have to, or 24 inches, depending on the size of the piece of property I have. And then they come back and say, well, you got to go up another 6, 7 feet. So you've got to put it on piers and beams. Now, what do you do in that case? You know, you've got the dirt already piled up there, and the cost of building on a pad is probably gonna be more than building on piers and beams. I've built a few houses in my life.
Well, I think the way this thing's structured, ideally, before you haul the dirt, you'd have to go permitting and get your stuff in order. So in essence, if you had to go to a point on your certificate or in your base flood that was higher than the 2 or 3 feet, you then have the option of making that evaluation. But ideally, what we're looking at trying to address here is having the permitting process done before the dirt's hauled, so that you wouldn't end up with a pile of dirt and then something on top of it. Now, you could do it any way you wanted to. You could put 2 foot and then put a chain wall slab on top of it, or put 3 foot and put pier and beam on top of it, or you could go to base natural ground and put pier and beam or a chain wall, whatever you want to do. But ultimately, you need to go through permitting so that you knew where you were before you started.
Well, you're supposed to have an elevation certificate before you ever get started.
If you're in a flood zone.
Which
In a flood.
Is most, well, FEMA told us even X is a flood zone.
Yep.
So they said there's really none.
They
Shane,
call-
have you
they
spoken
call
to
it-
this yet, or are
they-
you still waiting?
I'm still waiting.
No, he ain't
Okay.
got there yet.
Go ahead.
My turn? Okay, good. All right. I don't know.
Maybe said the 3-minute time.
I'd like to start this off by saying, look, I'm not totally against enacting some rules that everybody has to follow that will eliminate possibility of the wonderful people of Livingston Parish flood. But there are a lot of issues I have with this particular ordinance, and I just don't think it's a good idea to enact something or adopt an ordinance, until you've already worked out all those kinks, and that you feel like you've got something that's good in place for the people of Livingston Parish. And I'd like to point out some of the problems I have with it, and they're legitimate concerns, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very legitimate. And I also think that if passing such an ordinance, you're gonna limit the effect, the beneficial effect that this has to me. To me, you would have much more effect cleaning canals, making sure drainage projects, improvement projects are in place, that type of thing. Doing gravity drainage studies on the front end for your commercial developments. The big 100-acre, 200-acre subdivisions, where you go in and you pile dirt up, and you have a retention pond, a little small retention pond, that captures the rainwater and is supposed to let it drain off slowly, but you're still piling up an extremely large amount of dirt and regrouting in water, you know what I mean, to cause it to flow this way instead of that way and all this kind of stuff. I think that if you pass this ordinance, you're going to have a very limited, beneficial effect. I think we need to take a step back, maybe study it some more to make sure that what we're doing, that the rights and restrictions that we're putting upon the people of Livingston Parish is a good idea. To make sure that it's a good idea before we just go do something. Just go do something, because everybody else is doing it. I totally disagree with that. Okay? So some of the problems I have with this are some of the things that I did myself when I built my house that I wouldn't be able to do today. One point I have, if I lived in a no flood zone, or if I had bought property in a no flood zone today, I would just go get my permit and they would tell me what my base flood elevation is, and I would be able to determine if it was above that base flood elevation, and I could go put me a 1-foot dirt pad on my property without having to pay anybody any extra fees or anything like that. And I could put, if my house was going to be 50 by 50 today with our current rules, I could build me if my lot was 2 acres, I could build me a house pad that was 100 by 100, and I could slope that off, and when it rained, my yard would, drain well, and I could mow my grass, and there wouldn't be any issues. And I do not think that putting that 1.5 foot of fill on my property would extremely negatively impact my next door neighbor. As a matter of fact, I've done it, and I don't feel like I've impacted my neighbor at all. None of them. I do not believe that. And what I'm telling you, guys, is a fact. If you enact this ordinance tonight, the way it's currently worded, and you want to put that pad the way I'm telling you you want to do, then you're breaking the ordinance. You have to come get a variance or something, and I disagree with that. The gentleman earlier talked about a compaction test. This here ordinance doesn't say that if you put less than 24 inches that you're exempt from a compaction test. It doesn't say that. It requires it on every single shed that's placed on every piece of property in Livingston Parish, that you're going to have in a non-flood zone, to put a shed on your piece of property, you're going to have a flood elevation certificate. Do you know how much that costs? It ain't $5. I can tell you how much it costs. It costs anywhere from $600 to $900 to get all that done. Because you got to pay one of the surveyors to come out there and do it. It ain't just any Tom, Dick, and Harry can go out there and stick a measuring stick up in the air. That ain't how it works. That's extra money right there on top of building cost. I got some other issues. This ordinance right here, guys, and ladies and gentlemen, it does not address people piling up dirt on their property. Unless you're building a structure or putting a shed or something like that on your property. You can go dig a pond and pile dirt up all over your property and reroute water and do all kind of things over a period of time. And this doesn't address that. I like John's idea. Another thing I'd like to say, I forgot to say this. You're in Livingston Parish, you're in the flood zone, and you're 2 foot below base flood elevation. Okay? And you want to put 2.5, maybe 3 foot of dirt on that half-acre lot to bring your base flood, to bring your house a foot above base flood elevation, maybe 1.5 foot. You're thinking you won't flood in the future, okay? You can't do that under this ordinance. You can't do that. And guess what we found out after researching these last couple of weeks? Your flood insurance that happens to cost anywhere from $2,000 to $8,000 a year. Okay? You can't avoid paying that under this particular ordinance, because you can't put the dirt on your property. You can't
Loma.
raise it above. You can't Loma it
Loma,
out.
that's what it's usually-
And you can't, I mean, you're stuck paying it if you put that house on piers. You're stuck paying that $8,000. Your $800 a month house note just probably went to $1,200 to $1,300 a month. And all you needed to do was put about 2.5 foot of dirt on that property, you know? And maybe you wanted to, but your documentation wasn't quite right, and the Livingston Parish Council denied. You shall not be permitted for that. Whoa.
I would be willing to think that
You know,
if
so-
you build your house on piers and you go well above the base flood elevation, it's not gonna be $8,000, it's not even
Yeah,
gonna
it
be
will not be
2,000.
loaned out.
You know,
It will be.
No, it won't. If it's on piers, they
No,
won't, you
no,
can't.
what I'm
loan it.
saying is
No.
the flood insurance costs us between $2,000 and $8,000 annually if you build it on piers, unless maybe you change that federal law.
I checked mine, it was gonna be $12,000 at my camp. If I raised it 1 foot above BFE, it was gonna be $1,000.
Good.
So that's bull. It does come down when you raise it above BFE.
Well, I just think that's things, before you enact something like this, that we need to confirm without a shadow of a doubt. Like I said earlier, I'm not 100% against this. I've never been. But
Well, that's why it's an
there's
introduction. We gotta work
issues.
on it. We gotta look
Yeah,
at
but, yeah, but let's get it right before we introduce this thing.
Shane, 2
Okay.
weeks ago, you deferred it. Have you done any work on it in the last 2 weeks? Have you come up with any ideas to address any of your concerns? No. All you want to do is kick the can down the road 2 more weeks.
Now, wait a minute. I would say that's unfair.
Well, you deferred it 2 weeks ago. What have you done to address your concerns?
I've did some research and studied and tried to figure out and contemplate whether I think this is a good thing for people of Livingston Parish.
how can we change
I'm
it.
telling you now, guys. Y'all all welcome to make up y'all. I mean, I will have no hard feelings about how y'all vote. But you think long and hard before you take the rights of Livingston Parish people away and enact this particular ordinance the way it's currently worded. It is a long ways from being what we need in Livingston Parish. That's just my thought.
Well, a
You know?
yes vote tonight don't mean a yes
it
vote
doesn't.
in 2 weeks.
It doesn't. We don't have, I mean,
True, but it does mean that if you want to make changes over the next 2 weeks,
You
that
gotta
you're going to
make-
have to
Yeah, do some
amend
work.
this.
Yeah,
Well, what's
you gotta
wrong with
amend
amending it?
yeah.
We
can
amend them
amend
all
it.
the time, night up.
Furthermore, we could defer it for
In
the next meeting.
That's right.
I call the question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Well, I would like to say something.
Question been called.
Okay,
Questions? What happened?
He just walked in.
a second yet.
I'll second the call.
Okay, so.
well, you gotta have discussion, allow the discussion before you call with a vote. I mean, you can't just shut every council member off and not give them a chance to speak.
Well, I
That's
mean,
what you
did
do.
we?
Well, you know what?
Do you want to speak?
Yes, I wanna speak.
Mr. Mack said he wanted to speak last, so I
Well,
apologize.
I changed my mind.
I mean, you just can't cut a councilman off
No,
his talk.
I apologize.
Thank you. All right, look,
Hang on, we might want to talk.
I'm
we might
gonna-
want to talk to Mr. Moody before.
That's probably a good
I
idea.
called the question, so
well, just remove your
Rescind.
question and then
I
it's not.
rescind the question.
All right.
I second.
And I'll try to make this real quick, guys. I'm gonna address a couple things. First of all, to say, oh, we're just calling for an introduction, it's not the ordinance. Come on, guys, we've been on this road before. That's how the mosquito thing got through. And make no mistake about it, I'm repeating myself, if you vote to move forward with the introduction, you're moving forward with the ordinance. You do not want to move forward with the introduction until you got the ordinance right. As Mr. Tracy said. Mr. Jeff Ard made the comment, we have to do something. Guys, that's been the problem with government. A quick knee-jerk reaction just because of a problem. Have to do something. It's better to do nothing than do the wrong thing. You've heard the problem where the pad can only be 2 feet out past your slab. If I'm fixing to build a $500,000 house, you're going to make me put my slab only 2 feet. If rainwater falls off, that is not enough headroom for erosion under my slab. Besides the fact that the air conditioning pad goes out 2 feet, there's so many things in this ordinance is not good. And let me just say this, the ordinance committee has met on this 3 times already, and we have hashed out a lot of stuff that this parish council meeting hasn't been through. We've been through 3 meetings, and all 3 times we couldn't come to a conclusion. Please don't disrespect the ordinance committee that has put the work in for this council. That's what the committee's for, to bust our tail, so this council don't have to sit through an hour and a half's worth of meeting. The first thing that should have been said was, the ordinance committee recommends that we do take no action on this, send it to the master plan committee, and let them decide as they evaluate the growth of this parish in commercial, residential, and the master drainage things. Those are what need to be done first. The last thing I'd like to say is, common sense approach tells you that if you clean the ditches, you can eliminate drainage problems. Now, if y'all bear with me just 1 second, I'm gonna do a slight animation for everybody, just to let you know how important this is. And this is to answer Mr. Garlinghouse's question, and Mr. Scooter asked me the same thing. He said, but we got to stop people from flooding. If you put a mound, it's going to flood. That is not necessarily the case. Mr. Gary Talbot said in the ordinance meeting that the August 2016 flood would not, these mounds would have nothing to do with that. And Morgan agrees with that. The August 2016 flood, when the backwater is 2 types of floods. Backwater flood from the Amite came up into people's yards. It didn't matter how high your neighbor was. If you was below where that water came up, you gonna get flooded. It had nothing to do with it. So the other type of flood is flash flood. So Mr. Gary Talbot made the comment, this ordinance does nothing to fix backflood. So I'm assuming that all it does is fix the flash flood. Now let's deal with flash flood for a second. Let's just say Mr. Scooter King builds a house. And Mr. John Waskin builds a house. I'm going to borrow this for 1 second, Gary. And Mr. Scooter King says, hey, I'm going to put my house up on piers. All right? He's going to put his up on piers. Well,
We did that.
there he wants to straight.
That's why you gotta have an engineer design a foundation.
Okay, so he builds his up on piers, and Mr. Waskin's house is down on the ground. Here comes the flash flood. Don't worry, I'm not going to pour it everywhere. But the same amount of water, and this will prove my point, the same amount of water falls on both houses, whether this one is this high or this high. But in the middle, there's a drainage ditch that sits right here. And the water hits this house. If there was no slab, the water would hit Mr. King's house and run to the ditch and run off. But Mr. King built his house up on piers. The same amount of water hits the ditch, hits the houses, runs to the ditch, and goes in the yard. The problem is when the ditches don't clean, the water backs up in the ditches and goes to the yard. It's not that this Mr. Watson is low and not that he's high. The problem is the ditches ain't clean. If he builds it this high, the same amount of water hits the houses, the rooftops, goes to the ditch, goes in the tried to drain. It can't drain, so it backs up. And the only person who's saved here is the person who put dirt under their house. It's not the person who built here. He's going to get flooded. The point I'm trying to make is, so just because you put dirt under a house doesn't mean you're flooding your neighbor. If the water comes off this house and goes to that ditch, you're not flooding this gentleman. Now, you can't direct your water to someone else's house. I agree with that, and we need an ordinance for that. But this ordinance has nothing to do with that. And I hope I've explained that. But the amount of water that falls on a house, no matter how high that rooftop is, doesn't affect this person.
It'd be good if you were right, but
so
you're not.
So I'm under the impression that you believe that in the last 20 years, all the dirt that's come into this parish has zero effect on flooding.
Mr. Garlinghouse, I'm just telling you the way water flows downhill, okay?
From what I understand, what you're saying is that all the dirt that's come into this parish in the last 20 years that's went underneath a business or a house has had zero effect on flooding. Has not caused any flood. It has not affected.
It has, but so is if you throw 5 pebbles in the swimming pool. Let me say this. The ordinance committee did make a recommendation to send this to the master plan committee. Let the people, because if we pass this ordinance, we're going to affect development and growth in this parish immediately, guys. We're going to take tracts of property all across this parish and make it undevelopable, because this puts us into field mitigation. I'm telling you, don't pass this ordinance. Let the master plan committee, who we've appointed, and we've all went that way, let them move forward, bring it to this council, and we can adopt and look at parish-wide growth and planning and drainage issue.
But, okay.
So
My-
I put that in the form of a motion.
So you making a substitute motion?
There's been no other motion
Oh,
made.
yeah, I got a motion in a second. Then we have a discussion.
Okay, well, I'll make a substitute motion that we send this to the master plan committee, let them hash it out, and then from there, we can decide whether or not we want to move forward with this ordinance that is
Say it.
completely harmful.
Motion for introduction, Jeff second.
Okay,
So we got a motion by John on the floor to send it to the master plan. Does he have a second?
I haven't, well, I can't.
Mr. Butler, we got a second.
Okay, so you gonna answer?
I do, but I'd like to say one more thing, because this ordinance is that serious, okay? I know everybody wants to get out, this is that serious, okay? All right. One of the things I'd like to say is you possibly can get out and putting the, per this wording, putting the 24 inches of dirt on your property and maybe put more, you know, if you got half acre. You know, if you provide documentation, what does it say that it's not gonna adversely affect your neighbors? Well, I mean, the people that's fighting to pass this ordinance are saying that it definitely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, will impact your neighbor when you do put the dirt on the property. So how will you prove that it don't? Just a simple little question there. I think we need to take a step back and set up some meetings. I don't know. Let's keep fighting it out in the ordinance committee meeting to get this thing right.
You want me to tell you why it says that? I'll tell you why it says that. It says that because you gotta treat everybody the same. And the only people that are gonna be able to say they don't adversely affect their neighbor are people with large tracts of land. It's understood. I understand the wording makes no sense on the half acre, but you can't put an ordinance together that doesn't give everybody the same opportunity. And pretty much if you have less than a half acre tract, you're not gonna be able to go more than 24 inches because you're not gonna be able to say that it doesn't negatively impact your neighbor. But you've gotta give them the opportunity to try, just like you would on a larger tract. You can't single out a group, you gotta have everybody have the same ability. That's why the wording is like that. So we gotta call for John's motion first.
I also got a text from someone, said that your premium is based on your top and bottom floor in relation to the VFE, base flood elevation.
And
So if you have to put your house on piers, you can put it up 2 feet, 3 feet above the VFE, and your premium will be minimal.
And look, them $600 to $800 flood elevation certificates you getting, next time you need one, call me. I'm gonna give you this engineer's number. He says they're typically $300.
I said 200 to 800, depending on what engineering firm you use, and how much will it cost you 20 years from now?
You know,
15,000?
Depends on.
All right, let's just go ahead and get some voting going on. I think everybody's done
I'd
made.
like to comment on the motion that John made, and all it is, I'm on the master plan committee
Yes, sir.
along with John. Everybody else is appointed someone. We've had one meeting. We haven't even voted the chairman in. We haven't even begun to discuss the master plan to see what we need to change, what we need to fix on it. I mean, we have a lot of work to even be ready to start using the master plan. So now, once again, we're looking at a year and a half down the road before we're gonna be ready to do this.
and it's better than doing the wrong
You know,
thing.
and in the meantime, we're just letting more dirt build up, and more dirt build up, and more dirt build up.
2 weeks ago, Jeff, I said that 2 weeks ain't gonna hurt us, and 2 weeks ain't gonna hurt us. But I agree with you. I don't know how long from now that's gonna be, and that's a ways down the road.
You got it.
So just a long time.
Yeah.
On the substitute.
We got John's
Okay.
substitute motion.
So, man, I'm kind of confused. So we have a substitute motion by,
Can you repeat the substitute?
You know, my substitute motion is to get rid of this ordinance, period. It's a terrible ordinance, drafted from Ascension, full of holes. It's gonna take away, it's gonna hurt the future growth of this parish. My motion is to abolish this ordinance that Mr. Gary has vehemently pushed for 4 months, and let's clean the ditches in this parish and get the water drained. Yes, we can.
No, we can't.
That's my motion.
We gotta
Okay,
fix
so
stuff we can fix.
Bubba, John wants to kick his motion change to go,
Get rid of your
to
ordinance.
get rid of this ordinance. So do you think my ordinance, I just wanna know, do you wanna second that motion, which is to get rid of this ordinance completely?
I wanna go back to my 1 foot.
Well, I understand, but you got, let me tell you, you got a better chance of your 1 foot if we introduce this one and lobby for it in 2 weeks than you do if we kick it out the deal. So do you want a second, John? Look,
So the ordinance committee didn't mean nothing. From now on, don't send something to the ordinance committee.
the
Send it straight to
the
him.
ordinance committee does mean a lot.
No, we recommended don't do nothing, and then here, y'all override the ordinance committee.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
We override the planning.
Actually,
That's all right.
Actually,
Right.
that ordinance was, we were gonna introduce it 2 weeks ago, and we just postponed it for 2 weeks, because we split. So it didn't have to go back to the ordinance committee for
Yeah.
consideration. Right?
Well, I mean, I guess not, but it did go back and the ordinance committee did
Well, they just
discuss.
discussed it some more, but it was just.
Well, but you want a second, John? Let's, you
Yeah, I'm
want,
gonna stay with it.
Let's
you
call
gonna
it.
say what John's saying? Okay, so we need a vote on John's thing to kick the ordinance out.
Thank
So,
you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so,
Where did Avery
We have-
go?
He's over there.
he's right there.
Oh, I'm sorry, he was leaning
He was
back. I thought
relaxing.
he was
He's tired,
gone.
probably.
He was hiding behind Bubba.
We have a motion, let's go ahead. We have a motion on the floor to abolish this ordinance.
Substitute motion to abolish the
And
ordinance.
a substitute motion to abolish this ordinance. We have a motion by Mr. John Wascom to do that. We have a second by Mr. Bubba Harris to do that. Call for the vote. Is there any more discussion? Hopefully not. I call for the vote.
Mr. Lovell,
No.
Mr. Harris,
To abolish it, yes.
Mr. Avery,
No.
Mr. Ard,
No.
Mr. King,
No.
Mr. Greenhouse.
No.
Mr. Talbot,
No.
Mr. Mack,
Yeah.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Motion fails. So we had another motion
By me,
by Mr.
seconded.
Gary Talbot, seconded by Mr. Jeff R. To do what? To
Introduce the
introduce this ordinance
As written.
as written after all the discussion we've had about it. Do you want to read it, Sandy?
Yes,
We'll
please.
give it another number. This will be proposed ordinance 19-12. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 13, planning and development, article 5, flood damage prevention, section 13-76. Methods of reducing flood losses, part 4, by establishing criteria and adding fill dirt to individual lots, tracts, parcels of land in and for the parish of Livingston. The public hearing will be at 6:30 on May the 9th.
All right, any more discussion?
Can we amend the 24 inches out past the slab to,
There's a whole lot of things I'd like to see changed, but we ain't gonna do it right now.
We
Let's
gotta
just
do
vote.
it that night of.
Thank you, Shane.
Well, there's a motion, and a second, and there's no more discussion, so I call for the vote on that one too.
This is an introduction.
This is an
Yeah,
introduction
introduce art.
that needs some work.
Mr. Lovell,
Just in case anybody missed it, is the introduction.
Introduction.
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. R,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Greenhouse.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Mack,
No,
Mr. Wascom.
no?
Motion passes.
motion passes. It will be introduced in 2 weeks. Well, actually, it'll be up for adoption in 2 weeks, public hearing. Okay, what's next on the agenda?
I'll make that.
Finance committee.
Wait.
Wait a minute.
Finance committee, is there anything by the chair of the finance committee, Mr. Tracy Girlingham?
We had no meeting, this.
True.
So it's nothing. really.
Nothing to discuss.
Okay.
Is there any councilman comments?
Yes, I have.
Go ahead, Mr. Jeff.
First one I'd like to say is I know last meeting I mentioned to y'all about Walker High School having the boy and girl Mr. Basketball. They have also been chosen to be All-Americans.
Nice.
So we actually had both of them get on the All-American team. And second is, I don't know how many of y'all follow American Idol, but we have a young man representing our parish right now.
Yeah.
And he is doing extremely well, and I would hope that everybody would support him. And,
So we do his clothes, so we're good.
yeah,
He looks pretty big.
that's Mr. Lane Hardy.
Yeah.
A good kid, too.
Thanks, Mr. Jeff.
I got.
Next weekend, there'll be a whole.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead, Scooter.
No, Scooter got something too.
John's probably gonna touch on this maybe, but Denham Springs Antique District, Saturday, Spring Fest this weekend. Everybody come out. It's gonna be a great weekend finally. No rain for the first time in God knows. So we appreciate everybody to come out to downtown Denham this Saturday, I guess from 9 to 6 or so. Enjoy a good time.
I wanna wish Live Oak baseball success tomorrow as they travel to Acadiana to take on the Wrecking Rams at 4 o'clock in the best 2 out of 3 series in the LHSA 5A baseball series.
Greenfield isn't Welch, so we just, we
Frank
still
Summers.
look.
A lot going on.
Frank Summers heading to Quincy.
And the Walker girls softball's heading to Sulphur, aren't they?
I think Holden is too.
Holden
Oh,
is
it is
too,
too.
that's right.
Golly.
And also, I'd like to congratulate my daughter on being an all SEC academic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Proud of
Nice.
That's good stuff.
that. Gymnastics.
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead.
Remind everyone, not this Saturday, but next Saturday is an election in Denham Spur, in districts 2 and 3. I don't live there, won't go vote. I don't know how many things are on the ballot, but I think there's some important thing on there. So I'd like to encourage everyone to make your way to the polls.
Please go
Not
vote.
this Saturday, but the next
May
Saturday.
4th.
You can actually go vote this Saturday at the
Denham
the
Library.
Denham
Denham
Walker
Walker
branch of the library.
Good stuff.
And they probably would appreciate seeing you because I hear it's been
It's
kind of
sleeping.
slow around there.
It's slow. We want some turnout, guys. Somebody go vote.
Yeah.
All right, let's try to
Motion
wrap
to
this
adjourn.
up. Is there any more,
Motion to adjourn.
One more
short,
comment.
extremely short comments from the audience?
Well, Tab's got one.
That's not extremely
Oh,
short.
I'm sorry. I got
It's
you.
extremely round.
I'm not a council member. My name is Caden Smith, 9295 North Street. About 3 weeks ago, I talked to a man up at Clinton who had to take his scouts to a council meeting, and he wouldn't take it to his own council because it was beat this and beat that. And I was so proud to tell him that he can go on the Livingston Parish website and attend a meeting that's already been done. And even though it's heated at times, it's not like they're out in the middle of the gutter, beat this and beat
Just
that.
wait till after this.
So you people have done me proud. I
I'm
thank
just
you.
kidding.
Thank you very much. One last comment from Gab Lobel.
Good job.
That's not this weekend, but the following, Kickball 200 around Springfield. If any of y'all want to see some, big boats and stuff, it brings a whole bunch of money to my side of the world, and, a lot of nice attractions. Go out on the boat, get on the side and watch, because there's a lot of activity. Go, probably Saturday morning. Yeah, Saturday morning, you go out and sit at the mouth of Tickfaw River, and it's, pretty entertaining to watch them come out, so.
All right. That being said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Tracy Gillinghouse.
Second.
Jeff Avery.
Fourth.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Gavel. Gavel.
Oh, my bad.